Hey YouTube, it's Rai, and today I have a Battlefield 4 Know Your Role video. We're going to cover the Engineer class today and go over some of the more important aspects that the Engineer class brings to the battlefield, such as being an anti-tank and anti-vehicle soldier, as well as being able to repair friendly vehicles and do things of that nature. So we're going to go ahead and get into it and discuss this here in this video. I wanted to go ahead and let you know I'm not going to be going over everything in the Engineer class. Like, for example, I won't be really going over what the EOD bot can do, and the M15 anti-tank mines. They're the same as they were in Battlefield 3, so there's not really too much difference there, but I will go over some of the differences and some of the newer things and how some of the different rocket launchers and anti-tank mines and some of these things work in Battlefield 4. So let's go ahead and get to it. Now the first thing you'll see here is we got some clips we're looking at of the Engineer weapons, which are now PDWs. Different than what we had in Battlefield 3 is that the main Engineer weapons are now PDWs and not carbines. So the PDWs are mostly used as kind of up-close, mid-range to short-range weapons. They spit out a lot of bullets pretty quick and are usually good at hip firing and good up-close firing. If you're tending to want to play as a little longer range fire, you might want to switch to a carbine once you get those unlocked by playing through the Engineer class. That's going to be your best bet as far as getting longer range kills. So you're going to have those available. Some of the better ones I've used are, I like the UMPs, the UMP-45 and the UMP-9, and the PP-2000 if you're looking to get, a little bit better weapon, further range kills. But, really try them out, see which ones you like and which ones, are your preference. Let's go ahead now and get into the launchers. I'm going to talk about basically what I like to call the dumbfire launchers first, the RPG and the small launcher. Basically, you just point, shoot, and it launches straight at its target. As you see here, I'm using an RPG to kind of take out this boat that's in the water here from the side of this scout helicopter. Now, the RPG does a little bit more damage than the small, yet it has less of a straight trajectory, meaning it will have more drop over longer distances. So depending on how you're going to, use it and what you want to play with is depending on whether you're going to choose the SMA or the normal RPG. As you see here, I'm using the SMA. It's a much straighter trajectory, though it does a little bit less damage. Now, these are important when you're using these. A little pro tip here is to get, hits from on the back and directly onto the sides of vehicles to try to get an immobilization hit. And if you can get a direct hit, like in the back of it, one shot from these weapons will get you an immobilization hit. Now, the SMAs and RPGs are pretty good weapons. They're much like they were in Battlefield 3. There's not too much difference except for the damages and the trajectories that they do. So really play around with them again, see which ones you like and which ones you would choose to go with. I preferably like the SMOB just because it's got that straighter trajectory over longer distances, and getting hit on a helicopter as it streaks by. It's a lot easier to do with a SMA than it is with an RPG. Now we're going to go ahead and look at, in these clips here, the anti-aircraft launchers, the Stinger and the Igla. Now, they were basically similar, pretty much the same weapon in the last game in Battlefield 3. In Battlefield 4, they're a bit different now. The Stinger has a shorter range than the Igla. However, once you lock on and shoot the missile, much like you did in the last game, you can just go ahead and reload. The missile will just track to the target and explode on impact. Now the Igla is a little different, and you'll see here in a couple upcoming videos I have. The difference is the Igla has a further range. I think the Igla goes out, almost about 500 meters on its range, whereas the range for lock-on for the Stingers is considerably less than that. However, the Igla, you have to maintain the view of the target. You have to maintain the lock, so to speak. So the trade-off is that yes, you can shoot them now at longer ranges, and you have a much more a further range to work with. However, because you have to maintain the lock and stay in that locked position and in that reticle, you're going to be more susceptible while that missile tracks to enemy fire. Whereas with the Stinger, you're immediately then able to reload and or switch to a different weapon if you have an enemy that's nearby. So keep that in mind when using these weapons, that you want to be sure that you're using them smartly and wisely, and using them depending on your play style and also depending on the map. Smaller maps, shorter maps, you might want to go with a Stinger, whereas longer, bigger, wider range maps where you might not have as many enemies coming up close to you, you might want to go with an Igla. And as you see here, I'm able to get this, and I have to maintain the lock there to get any type of vehicle hit, and I take out this helicopter, or at least help to take out this helicopter here in this clip. Okay, now the next thing we're going to talk about here is my favorite new gadget for the engineers in Battlefield 4, and that's the M2 slam mines. Now, I love these things. They act much like the old anti-tank mines did in Battlefield 3. However, these are different in that, as you see here, you can place them onto objects. I place them onto the gate there, Gold Mud Railway, and as soon as that tank passes by, it blows up, explodes, and I get the destroy and the kills on the tank. You can also place them onto vehicles, and as soon as you place them onto vehicles, what will happen is you can then detonate them by throwing a grenade, let's say, or shooting a rocket at it. But what will happen is as soon as the driver then accelerates and starts driving away, the mines will activate and they'll blow up. They're great for setting booby traps, great for, you know, taking a vehicle out on the go if you can get close to it, and unlike C4, you don't have to detonate it, you can just run away, and as soon as that tank driver or the driver of that vehicle starts driving away, they're going to get destroyed. So they're great for taking out vehicles, and they're not as noticeable as we had in the past with the old anti-tank mines, where you'd have to place them on the ground, and everybody would see them, or they'd get spotted, and it was just so hard. They'd get destroyed before you'd really be able to do any good with them or get tanks with them. You really had to put them kind of in out-of-way spots. With the M2 slam mines, you can place them in areas that are going to be heavily trafficked, and sometimes they're just not noticeable unless someone's really looking out for them or happens to spot them with a thermal scope, for example. As you see here, I put one under the bridge. You can even take out boats with these things, guys. I put one under the bridge here on Paracel Storm, and lo and behold, I get a rib boat and take him out. So they're great for doing things like that. As you see here, I'll put them on the shoreline even. Just kind of put some on there, because I know guys in the attack boats like to go on this map, and this is a spot they like to capture that flag from. And you see here, eventually, as I'm getting rocket fire on that attack boat, he's going to drive through over those mines and get destroyed. So they work great in so many different ways. I'd suggest definitely having them and experiment with them, put them in different areas and places that maybe someone's not expecting them. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, and you see in this clip here, we're going to talk about this is the SRA, the wired guided rocket launcher. We're going to talk about some of these new rocket launchers. Not so much the law. The law is basically a basic, fire it tracks into a target and hits them, kind of your standard rocket launcher. But we're going to talk about the wired guided rocket launcher. You see here I'm using a Javelin. Now, the Javelin and the SRA work differently in that, yes, the Javelin works like it did in the last game. You still have to lock onto a vehicle. Now you have to maintain the lock once you shoot it for it to track and hit a vehicle, as you see I'm doing here. And the SRA is a wire-guided, where you can just shoot it and actually track it into an enemy combatant or enemy vehicle and get a kill on it that way. The one thing all these rocket launchers do, though, is they are able to lock onto designated targets. And I can't stress how important it is in certain, when you're playing this game, that you do get targets designated, especially now with the Recon class. And when I do the Recon class tutorial, I'll explain more about designating targets. But the Recon class comes standard now with a personal laser designator to lock targets. It's so much easier, as you see I'm doing here, to take out a pesky scout helicopter with two guys healing it, or two engineers healing it, when you get just maybe even 2 or 3 guys, shooting launchers at it, and getting it locked and designated with these launchers than it is just by shooting a bunch of Iglas and Stingers at it. So, and as you see here, just like the last game in Battlefield 3, you can kind of do it from cover. If someone locks it on for you, I'm using the SRA here, I can lock onto a target. It'll automatically track to it so long as it's got it designated. So I'd suggest, really pro tip, guys, use those designated launchers. Use it with a teammate. Work with teammates to go ahead and get someone to designate for you, and your team and your engineers are going to be able to control those conquest maps, those rush maps, those big maps with a lot of vehicles. You're going to control it and be a lot more successful. Now, I know in this video I didn't get too much into using the repair tool or what some of the field upgrades do. Basically, the field upgrades, you're either going to be doing anti-tank, which is you get more launchers, more deployable mines, things like that you're able to use, and the repair or mechanic upgrade, which basically means you get to repair or sabotage vehicles faster. Pretty self-explanatory. I do hope you guys like this video. Please hit like and subscribe if you did, and until next time, this is Rai. Take care.